Good morning, or good afternoon, according to where you are in the world. It's Louisa Tanner-Munson here from Feel Good Astrology, and I'm joined once again by lovely, gorgeous Rick Pursell from Bali, Indonesia. Rick, how are you today?
Doing well. Not without challenges, but doing well overall. And to your viewers, I want to welcome you to another session of lovely Louisa and the Gappy Tooth Monster.
Oh, do you want to tell us about that? What's happened?
Well, I've got a new plate coming on Saturday, so all of the gap will disappear again.
I have to say, I think you're very brave because if that had happened to me, I don't think I'd have gone live on camera. I'd have been too vain, or I don't know. Or there'd be one reason for me to wear a mask.
The show must go on. The show must go on.
Bless you. You've got such a candid attitude. I love that about you. So we're talking about the game of life today. And that came out of one of our conversations, didn't it? You know, I was sending you a message saying, what is going on in the world? How do you think this is going to play out? And I think the word play out is pretty apt, isn't it, for this moment? And it was your suggestion. What led you to the idea of the game of life, Rick? Can I ask?
It's something I do in my retreats and coaching to put some perspective on the bigger idea of the game of life. Life is everything, isn't it? Life is consciousness. It's solid, it's matter, it's day, it's night. When we talk about life, we encompass every imaginable facet of life, from the tiny microorganisms in the soil to the giant majestic whales and the snow-capped mountains. Everything is embracing life. So because we are being challenged in life at the moment, I thought it might be good to define what a game is and how that applies to life, and maybe of some value.
Yeah, I reckon it will be. So what is the game of life then? Let's talk through it like step by step.
Sure.
Maybe I could start by saying what my as a child, I was thinking about this in the shower this morning. As a child, I had this sense that I was at school, like that my life was a school. And I remember saying to my mum, and I think she thought it was a bit strange because we didn't really have conversations about life or spirituality or religion. You know, everything was kind of functional. And I think I explained to her really clearly, you know, Mum, it's okay. This is just like school. And at some point I'll go home, you know, having learnt lessons, and I'll come back again. And I don't know where I got that from. And I'm not even sure that is actually what I do believe. I think it is. But at that age of, like, say, 6 to 8, I absolutely firmly believed it, you know, without a doubt. So where do you want to start with this game of life?
All right. Well, let's define a game. Let's get really basic here. And I've done quite a bit of research on it, and I've never seen any deviation from this. That a game consists of 3 primary aspects.
Yep.
The first is a purpose. The second is a combination of either barriers or obstacles, however we want to see that.
Yep.
And then the third one is freedoms. So let's take, for instance, a game of football, or soccer as it's called in some countries.
Suggest that, actually.
Yes.
A good result yesterday.
Excellent. Okay, so a game of football, each team has a purpose, right? And that purpose is to score more goals than the opposing team.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the key performance indicators. That's the primary objective, is to score more goals than the opposing team. Ironically, of course, that's exactly the same goal as the other team, the opposing team. So both teams share that same goal. So that's the purpose of it. The barriers and obstacles can be numerous, but let's take Team A, call them Team A and Team B, rather than Chelsea and Liverpool or Manchester United, and get myself into trouble. Team A um, may be faced with barriers or obstacles that the opposing team are much better, more professional. They're higher up the league. They've been around for a lot longer. They've got some real prime players in there. And Team A is a little bit down the charts a little bit. So Team B is the opposition. They're really good. They're at the top of their game. They have an excellent coach. So there's an obstacle there. How do we play these guys that are so good, that have a history of playing well, strategy, all of that? So that could be seen as an obstacle to have to overcome. And some of the barriers are, as we know, you unless you're the goalkeeper, you can't touch the ball with your hands because that would be a foul.
Mhm.
So, and you can't take the ball, dribble the ball out over the lines of the field, and then come back in again.
Yeah.
So there's barriers and obstacles. All right. And then finally, there's the freedom. So Team A and Team B both have the freedom to strategize, to play whatever players they want to play, to kick the ball up in the air or dribble it along the ground, to kick it to any one of their members in the team. There's tremendous freedom in there. They're not free to take the ball outside or touch it with their hands, but there are tremendous freedoms of, especially with strategy and outfoxing the opposite team. So both of the teams have the freedom to strategize and play the game within the boundaries and within the rules. So that's a game, and I defy anybody to look at any game and not see that, because ice skating, motor racing, basketball, rounders, whatever game you have, you will have those three components. So how do we marry that? What's that got to do with the game of life? Right. Well, the game of life has exactly the same components. We have a purpose. We have a purpose for being here. Unfortunately, many people either don't know that life purpose, we call it a life purpose, why they came into this incarnation, that they either don't know it or they've never fulfilled it. They've never pursued it, right? So everybody, I believe everybody comes into this incarnation with a purpose.
Yeah.
And that purpose can be very, in somewhat, it would appear minor to the Mahatma Gandhis and the Mother Teresas that go and influence thousands, if not millions of people. So there's nobody judging how good your game is. I when I was traveling in and out of Singapore, I'd go in there twice a month, and that means I would get off the plane or go onto the plane. Before I got on, I'd go to a toilet, and I found that I went into a toilet on one occasion, and a little old Chinese guy bent over cleaning it. This toilet was absolutely immaculate. And when I'd washed my hands and finished, he took the paper from me and put it in the rubbish bin. And I looked him in the eyes. I just confronted this beautiful soul. And I said to him, "You do a wonderful job here. This is so clean." And then I realized he had no idea what I was saying. All he replied in Mandarin, but he was beaming because he had basically been invisible. I suspect most of his life, most of his working life, he was invisible. And on occasions over the 4 years that I was traveling in and out, I would witness other guys coming in. They would just throw the paper on the floor. They didn't look at him. They didn't acknowledge him. But 4 times a month, I embraced this man and acknowledged him. And we just smiled at each other. And so occasionally he would touch my arm and I'd touch his shoulder. And he was doing an extraordinary job. What a mundane job, right? Doing it in such a brilliant way, so clean, so immaculate, so passionate, and relentless. I never saw that.
Come on, Rick. Oh no. This sometimes happens, guys. We're broadcasting in between Portugal and also Bali, Indonesia. And if anyone's ever sort of traveled over there, you'll know that this does happen. that the internet sometimes goes down and people pop in and out of conversations. Rick really is kind of up in the mountains, and so the signal's not always that good. Yet he's gone. But it's interesting. So, like, Rick's talking about purpose right now, and hopefully he'll be back shortly. I know he's got a backup plan already under his sleeve. But I've been sort of like thinking about purpose this week, and I've been looking at the Ikigai model. I don't know who created it. Honestly, I don't. And maybe you do, and you can write it in the comments. But it's spelled Ikigai. And I've been exploring it. And if Rick goes again, I'll tell you a little bit more about it. But I want to hear more about his life of purpose. Rick, you froze when you were talking about purpose.
Sure. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So this little man, I'm not sure how much you got of that, but this little man did a wonderful job. He never stopped. And he was doing the very best he could with what he had. And how many years I have witnessed 4 years, same job, same toilet, same everything, day after day. And his standard and quality never changed once. So I can compare him with Mahatma Gandhi for passion, purpose, commitment, right? There's a similarity in that line.
Yeah.
So we've got this game of purpose, barriers or obstacles, and freedoms. So we come into this life with a life purpose, and it's up to us to uncover what that is.
Because we can, in many cases, isn't it?
It is, because we conveniently forget. In order to have a game, right, we have to forget everything that we knew in the past so that we can create a new.
Yeah.
And games are really the passion and purpose are the synonymous. When you find your passion, what is it that gives you joy? Not temporary joy like a new handbag or a new BMW in the driveway, but what gives you lasting joy? And usually it's being of service to others. It's acts of love that you give selflessly to others is one of the highest forms of consciousness. So that's the purpose. We need to uncover what our purpose is and diligently, passionately, lovingly pursue that purpose, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right? And then this is where we get to the juicy bit. The barriers and obstacles. Oh, where to start? Yeah. One, we've forgotten anything that we may have not learned, but known about in the past lifetime. And then we go from being totally dependent as a tiny baby through our life where we gain some independence and then become dependent on our children in the very latter stages of our lives. That's the normal procedure. So the barriers and obstacles, I would say that if you walk through Lhasa in Tibet with a Free Tibet t-shirt on, you probably would get arrested, right? You can wear them in Bali, you can wear them in San Francisco and London. So different cultures and different governments and different authorities have a different levels of freedoms that we're allowed to pursue in our lives.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love about Bali is there's an amazing amount of freedom here. There's not a lot of abject laws that are thrust down our throats. Right? And I don't need to go through all the laws of what the barriers and obstacles are. Now, the interesting thing is that if you find yourself with what sometimes appear to be insurmountable barriers or obstacles, then that's, to me, is a very good sign that big beings attract big challenges, right, in order to grow.
Yeah.
Not the little stuff. We attract big stuff, right, in order to learn and grow. So if any of your viewers are watching this and you're going through some pretty challenging challenges,
Yeah.
just check in and say, yeah, look, what has my history been? What have I done? What have I achieved? Well, this is yet another opportunity to overcome the challenges. So, obstacles and barriers that may be in our way, but we have freedom to be able to play the game and choose the game that we want. Through our thoughts, we are creating our reality. So we can choose the life that we want to. Now, you might say, well, what opportunities would somebody in Yemen have now, or Syria, or Africa? Well, in each of those countries, people have risen above all of the obstacles, done some rather extraordinary work. So it is possible, right? Even without an education, it's possible to do acts of kindness, random acts of kindness, and make a difference in your life and other people's lives. So, yes, some countries have less freedoms than others, but we need to find the chink in the armor. What can we do that will enhance our life purpose and make a game? And we should. I'm not competitive, and I don't condone competitiveness. It's not part of my character.
Yeah.
Because competition is the old paradigm of doing things in business, in many sports that have now become won in the courts. You know, the Americans Cup yachting race is won in the court by defending one's strategy, the mechanics of the vessel, the whole lot. Motor racing is the same. Right? It's not one man and one car pitted against another. It's a team and a massive amount of money behind it that's at stake here. So that's competitiveness, and it can be very destructive. It can lead to ruthless ambition. But the new paradigm is all about collaboration and cooperation. And I have seen more than one video of runners, marathon runners, Olympic runners, where somebody stumbled and fallen, and one of the competitors has stopped and helped them to the feet and helped them across the line. Maybe you've seen something like that too.
Yeah, I have. But I think you see that kind of behavior a lot in children who haven't really learnt the rules yet. I mean, you also see competition because they're modeling and trying out lots of different ways of being. But one of the things that always surprises me with children is if they're allowed to be generous and kind, they really are. I think it's in their nature to be collaborative, and I think like for instance, my daughter, she had a visit from the tooth fairy, and we don't really lie and say there really is a fairy because I don't want to, cause problems. But
you mean there isn't? No, you mean.
And we gave her €2, and she basically she said I'm sharing it with my brothers, and she just like gave both her coins away. At which point they both gave the coins back, and they were just like passing these coins between them. They didn't want one to be. I guess they felt safe to be able to do that, but I mean that's just a small example. But I see kindness. I don't always see the rough and tumble. We are taught to be competitive for sure,
Yes.
without a shadow of a doubt. But I think it's in our nature. Like I don't want to be a bully about how we should eat or this, that, and the other. But I think one of the arguments for veganism or vegetarianism is not many people actually have the guts to kill an animal. We're not really wired that way. We're not killers. I really don't think we are anyway. Most human beings, they're eating meat because they've learned to. And if they had to do the killing themselves, they possibly wouldn't do. Like when we see a lamb galloping in the fields, we don't think, wow, I want to eat that necessarily. You think, wow, it's a little baby creature, and we have that reaction. So I think you're really right. I think we're hardwired for cooperation and collaboration and care. Like we're shepherds of
Yes.
energy.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And we need to collaborate and cooperate with nature and work in unison and collaboration with nature, because nature has been around a lot longer than we have.
Yeah.
And she renews and regenerates herself. We can renew and regenerate our bodies, our families, our communities, our nations, our world, our human family. And we can do this if we follow biomimicry and follow the earth signs. Then I think it would be we would get to a natural stage where we would automatically wean ourselves off meats, and then possibly into veganism, and ultimately breatharianism,
Yeah.
which is completely harmless. And I've done this for 7 days and 7 nights with no food and no water.
How did
And
you
then absolutely incredibly, absolutely incredible. If you think about the amount of time that we spend on the subject of food, between buying it, storing it, preparing it, eating it, digesting it,
and then
all of that's
afterwards.
and the clean and do the damn dishes afterwards. So when you take that out of the equation, there's a lot more room and presence for the present.
Yes.
So
I interviewed a lady who I guess, by most terms would be known as a breatharian, though she didn't really like the label breatharianism because it stops her from having choice. But she says she's on a pranic lifestyle and has been for well over a decade. And she's really light and very articulate and has tons and tons of energy. But one thing she said is, if a small child offered her a chip or a cake or a bite of something, she would do it to honor the child. But she's not really eating it; she's just experiencing the vibration of the thing that comes into her field. It was a fascinating chat, and what she was saying about the energy that she had, like often not sleeping at nights. She has so much energy to put to her projects and her passions, so that kind of fits in with her purpose.
Yes.
I think I would probably venture there, when I'm not in full mum mode. I find it very appealing. Sorry, I interrupted, but
no, it's a good step. This is the protocol that I followed, living on light. This woman has gone without food or water for over 20 years.
Wow.
But she says, for the same as your the person you were interviewing, that occasionally she will have a small bite of chocolate, or she'll have some tea because she wants to socialize with people. She will just have tea while the others have some food. And one of the sages in India said, when you have mastered taste, you've mastered everything. And you think how much our taste buds are stimulated by food and the smell of bakery and coffee, all of that stimulating the whole digestive system. But when you put that to rest, water fasting, I've done 14 days of water fasting. The other one where I was living on prana was 21 days altogether. It's about 23 days without food. 7 of those without food or water, and then the rest was just water, with a slight touch of taste in it, because after a while the body's just craving some taste. So I understand why you might want to eat a chip now and again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So to carry on the game of life. We come into this incarnation. I think most people come in with not knowing what their life purpose is, and so it is up to us. This is why we must instill imagination and curiosity in our children, both at home and at school, and then we'll be curious about what it is I want to dedicate my life to, and that can change. It doesn't have to be the same routine for all of your life, but generally it does fixate around a common theme,
Yeah.
and play that to win, not to win and get at somebody else's expense of losing, but play the game to the best of your ability. And that's all we're doing. We're living life. We're living in the game of life. And every one of us is doing the best we can at the moment with what we have. And it's very easy to criticize people, especially
Definitely.
parents and older generations, that we've inherited the legacy of previous generations, and we are leaving a legacy for future generations.
Yes.
And it's very easy to be very critical and judgmental about that. But at the time, every decision we've made at the time was the right one, whether it was enforced or whether it was a conscious choice or unconscious one. At the time, it was right. A few seconds later, you might think, oh, I wouldn't make that decision again.
Yeah.
A few years later, I wouldn't choose that again. And we've learned from it. So how do we know what we want until we've discovered what we don't want?
Yeah.
So this is part of the game. We have the freedom to choose good or bad, right? Hot or cold. Right? That the ego can show us the path of fear, right? And we can consciously choose the path of fear or consciously choose the path of love.
Yeah.
So it's just a game, right?
But
When we see it from a game, it's not quite so serious. And I often joke to people, you don't want to take life too seriously. You don't want to take you want to take yourself too seriously, because
yeah,
nobody else does.
that's true. Yeah.
And
Go on.
one other thing, I nearly said don't take life seriously, and I stick by that. But do it sincerely. There's a difference. Be very sincere about what you do.
Yeah.
My dad taught me, if you're going to do something, son, do it well. If
Mm.
it's worth doing, do it well. If
Yeah.
it's not worth doing, don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
So that's being sincere. Now, over to you.
Um. Yeah, we do appear to be in the game for sure. And I have to say, as games go, I feel like I've got a little bit more of a handle on the rules. Um, Part of the reason why I'm parenting our children in the way that I am is that I don't want them to have to kind of struggle. I'm not trying to get rid of their struggle, but I don't want them to have to struggle until they're 40 before all of a sudden they feel like they're like understanding the ropes of life. I know that's going to happen anyway. Not sure if you've frozen on me. Is this one of my boring stories? Oh well, Rick's going to be in and out on this one. But the other thing that I've noticed about the game of life is that we're born not knowing the rules, and we're born not knowing that we're in a game, and it's almost like we're doing the game with a blindfold on. It's almost like one of those games like pin the tail on the donkey. You don't even know that there's a donkey there. So you're blindfolded. Someone points you in the rough area and they tell you this is what you need to do. But you don't even know that that's actually true. And so that's one of the main challenges that I've experienced. Here he comes. I was just saying, for me, from my sort of experience, it feels like we've been brought into a game without consciously knowing that we're in a game, and it's like we're wearing a blindfold. A bit like pin the tail on the donkey. You have to trust the environment that you are in. There is actually a donkey, and there is actually a tail, and there is actually a pin in the tail. You know that game, don't you? Where it's a game they play at kids' parties where you're blindfolded and you're supposed to put the tail wherever it is on the donkey. But we don't actually, like the way life is set up, and we're told this is how it is and this is how it isn't. And we have absolutely no concept of whether that's actually true or not. I'm not sure if you've frozen on me again or if you're just really listening. I think you've gone again. This is like Rick's playing a game on me. So anyway, yeah, I think it takes a long time to get to grips with the fact that, are we actually blindfolded? Are we actually seeing things clearly? How can we perceive things clearly? Um, and, how do we get through it? If we're spending the greater part of our life just to even realize we're in a game, and that possibly some of the conditions that we're expecting to be playing in aren't necessarily true, then it's a very difficult one. It's a very challenging one. It's one of those epic ones. It's like a hero's journey. When you see those films and the main star goes through this huge transformation, we think, wow, I could never do that. Well, we all are. When I've sort of like the last 10, 11 years, I've felt like I finally got to grips with the game of life, and feel like finally I'm almost not on an even footing, but like once you know the rules of the game, all of a sudden things get easier. And that really came with questioning everything, and to realize that I actually am in a game, and to find out what the rules are. I'd love to hear your own examples. I know I've got some people in listening in, so let us know. Where are you in your game? How long did it take for you to establish the rules of life, or to understand the actual environment that you're playing in? Was it this great big discovery? I think right now, I mean, this is how Rick and I came up with the concept of the game of life. Is I was talking to him about the COVID phenomenon, like what's going on at the moment. There are some people that are very heavily identified in the whole phenomenon. And there are some people who feel very sort of like, very detached from it. And most of us are somewhere in between. But there are quite a few inconsistencies and things that just don't make sense. And I think that's always a really big clue that possibly things aren't as they seem. And when you know that, it's like, aha, I'm in a game again. This is like I've gone up to a different level. Something else is going on. And I don't know if like me, you've had that thought that like this is a computer game, like one of those level games, and you've got to, jump over barrels of boiling oil and try and get to the great big gorilla at the top of the screen. It is like a platform game. So you just as you master one thing, you're on to the next level. Which any parent will know. Just as you feel like you finally understand the rules of having a baby, and what your baby is asking for, and just as you feel like you get that level of understanding, boy, does it take you onto another level. Your baby will do something new, and then it's like, so yeah, it's a whole tricky scenario. So where am I in my game of life? Because I don't really feel qualified to talk about Rick's or about actually what's going on in the world. My own sense of what is going on is based on the uncovery of purpose. And this is what Rick was talking right at the start. Like there are three key components or primary aspects of being in a game. So the first one is purpose. There has to be a purpose for the game. And like once you understand what the purpose is, then the game almost starts. But you also have barriers and obstacles to overcome. That's the second main aspect of a game. And then the last one is you have freedoms. And if you apply that to life, you can actually see, wow, yes, do we have a purpose? Where do we want it to be? We all know that there are barriers and obstacles. Even the most, heavily pampered person will have barriers and obstacles. Most certainly the pampering itself is a bit of a barrier or an obstacle. And we all have freedoms. We can choose to play by the rules or not. Usually, even when things are enforced, we still have a choice. And it might not be a good choice, but we still do have a choice. So we're back to the whole thing of purpose. Right now, in my own work, I feel a lot of purpose because I'm, working with people on a daily and a monthly and a weekly basis, sort of like guiding people as a bit of a cosmic coach. And I love that. And it's taken me quite a while to unravel that was something that I feel very determined and excited about. It feels like my passion or my purpose. But I'm going through an Ikigai template right now, and you can look it up. You can go to the internet and type in Ikigai, and it's this lovely little model, and it's really, really easy to kind of work through, but it really helps you uncover where you are in your game of life, I guess. So it really fits into this conversation. So there are 4 things that you kind of ask yourself about. It's a method of self-inquiry. The first one is, what do I love doing? And for me, when I was looking at what do I love doing, I love helping people. I love being of service. I absolutely get a buzz from knowing I made a difference. I love to be creating a space for people where they feel safe and calm and well. And I love being part of a good experience. I love to be there when people are having these good moments. So that's one of the things I love doing. I love caring for others. Then the next question is, what am I good at? And that sounds like a really like similar question, but it's different. What am I actually good at? Well, yes, I'm good at all of those things, but actually one of my key skills, I think, is patience. I'm really patient, and I actually did a kind of 360. Asked my children, asked my husband, and if I was going to do a really good 360, I'd have asked a few people that didn't really like me very much, or who found me a bit annoying. What do you think my key skills are? But I came up with a list of skills and sort of behaviors that I think I'm really good at. And the combination of what you love and what you're good at, I think, is your feeling of passion. So that's really helpful, where there's that overlap. So my patience and my love of helping people gives me a passion for listening. So, that really fits in with what I do. But there are 2 other big keys. The next one is, what can you earn money from? How can you earn money? And the last question to ask yourself is, what does the world need? And what I realized is that each of these 4 things, if you imagine them as 4 circles and they overlap and you get 4 little kind of lovely little kind of sort of eye-shaped, almost like almonds. So, and one of them is your passion. So you find out where your passion meets, where what you love and what you're good at overlap. And then there's mission, and that's where what you love and what the world needs overlaps. And so you have the sense of mission and that you're doing something. And then where what the world needs and what you can earn money from, that gives you a profession, because you're doing something that is very necessary. And then the last one, what you earn money from and what you're good at, that is your vocation. And all of those sort of like defining things are really awesome. But each of those things, so profession, vocation, passion, and mission, they're not full. With each of those, there is a condition that you're kind of not winning at. So, for instance, if you're following your mission, i.e., what you're good at and what the world needs, you're not earning money. You're doing something. You're doing something that benefits the world for the good of doing it. It's not necessarily going to help you financially. And so the Ikigai, what it does is, as you identify all these behaviors, then you find what's actually at the core of you, like how you can help the world, how you can earn money and be helped by helping the world, how you're doing what you love, and how you are also doing what you're good at. And so I'm working through it and thinking, now let's have a look at most of my projects. And earlier on, I think most people will find themselves in a vocation. So I was doing something that the world needed. I worked for banks and insurance companies, which is why there's so many of them. The world appears to need people to do that stuff. And I was earning money from it. So I had a vocation and I did it for many years, but I didn't really feel like I was present in my game particularly. I just felt really a ton of resentment that I wasn't doing what I loved and there was no real attachment for me. And I've kind of gone around the circle. So we all often start in that place of vocation and profession. But now actually, in more recent years, as I was testing my skills and outing myself as a coach and an astrologer and a kind of psychic or intuitive, I started doing a lot of stuff for free. So I was doing what I loved, and I was also doing what I was good at, and possibly something that the world needed, but nothing that was actually earning me money. So right now I'm really refining that. And I think, the barriers and obstacles are, there is this idea that when we're in life, often the things that we love are seen as a charity, and the things that we don't love are seen as hard work. And we're kind of sold the idea that you can't actually have both, or somehow that it's unfair or it's unethical to do something that you love and earn money for it. So we've got all these sort of social memes and these ideas of what works and what doesn't. There's so many sort of implied rules there. So where are our freedoms? Well, for me, and I can only talk from my own perspective, for me, the freedom is knowing that I'm not compromised in any way. That absolutely how I choose to live and how I choose to work, and, on the whole, I'm not deliberately causing harm to others. And, as I go about my day, I'm always considering, I mean, you can take it too far. I mean, obviously the computer that I'm working on and my phone at some level have probably involved some kind of child labor cruelty, and a lot of our clothes and the products that we buy will involve some of that. And all we can do is our absolute best in the moment, like Rick was saying earlier, is we make a choice at that moment in time. I could choose to not cause any harm, whether like deliberate or implied, and breatharianism would seem like quite a conscious choice of doing that. But right now I am where I am, and to the best of my ability, I'm living free of compromise. I'm living in a way where I don't feel like I'm compromising others to live a good life. I'm doing my absolute best to have a great time and also uplift other people. So that for me is the ultimate freedom. I don't know what it is for you, but maybe you can let us know. Anyway, I thank you for joining us today. It looks like Rick's connection has gone. But as I know with Rick, he has never gone. He's always connected, and I always feel very connected to him. It's a lovely moment that I get, this time to speak with him every week, and to chew the fat, chew the cosmic fat. But anyway, wherever you are in life, wherever you are in your game, wherever you are in finding or feeling purpose, I wish you a wonderful day. Lots of peace, love, and joy. Anyway, lots of love. Thanks for joining us today, and come back soon. Take care. Bye for now.